Hello everyone, the month is over. Can you believe that? That went by so fast. But it is officially March, which means that it is time for my February reading wrap up. Now let's go ahead and get started. Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Wendy Ivy Martinez and I'm a geek. So per usual, the way that I usually do these is I rank them from the lowest rating all the way to the highest. So from my lowest stars over to my highest stars. So let's go ahead and get started with that. In the month of February, I read a total of 14 books. We're starting with my 3 stars. I actually had no 1 and 2 stars, so awesome. I'm glad I didn't have any 1 or 2 stars in the month of February. I did have some in January, but I did not have any in February, so we are starting the year off right because we have 3 stars, actually 3.5 stars here. The first one being Rent a Girlfriend, and this is a manga that's basically about this boy who can't seem to have a girlfriend, and so he ends up renting one, and of course this girl brings on a fake personality. It's not really who she is, and then he sort of picks at her and picks at her. She sort of like erupts, and then her true self really comes out, and he's like, oh, this is who you are. And after all that, he ends up writing a 1-star review on her, and she's like, don't hire me anymore then. But he ends up hiring her again, and she's like, you have to stop hiring me. You gave me a 1-star rating, and that's messing up my whole perfect score. And then they are kind of forced together by certain circumstances where she has no choice but to help him out. And this book was good. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that I just felt it was so based off of like outer beauty, and I don't know, like I just felt like it didn't, like the woman was just like, oh, she's beautiful and she's gonna do whatever the man wants to do. You know what I mean? And I didn't really like that aspect of it, like women are only like trophies or like prizes to be won. So that's the only reason why I rated it like lower, on the lower scale. However, as far as like the entertainment value goes, it was very entertaining, so that's why it retained a little bit of a higher rating, just strictly because of the entertainment value. Next we have The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This I rated 3.5 stars as well. The story is about our main character. Her name is Katniss, and she basically lives in District 12. Now the world is sort of divided into 12 districts, with District 1 being, I believe, the most wealthiest, all the way to District 12 being on the lower class side, and their district is like the coal mining and each district has their own sort of things that they rule over. So like one's like agriculture and this and that. And so every single year, 2 kids between the ages of 12 to 18 have to volunteer into these games where they have to like fight to the death, called the Hunger Games. Katniss's sister actually ends up being picked, but Katniss volunteers as tribute, and she basically goes into these Hunger Games where it's a battle of survival and only one person can win. And this series, I don't know why I waited this long to read this series. It's actually very good. It's such an entertaining series. The only reason why it's not rated higher is just because you guys know how I am with like YA books. I just can't do YA really anymore. So I don't know what it is. I did really enjoy the story. I did really enjoy the characters. Katniss, I felt like lacked depth. You know, like I understand that she's always in survival mode due to her constantly being hungry and being in this like 12th district and literally being in the Hunger Games, but she just like really had no personality, and every other character sort of had their little personality elements to them, and Katniss was just like dull. Do you know what I mean? Like she had no redeeming qualities other than she's like a badass fighter and survivalist. And so that's why I rated it lower as well, but I did really enjoy the story, and I do plan on continuing the series and finishing, and even reading the prequel before I actually watch the movie for it. And I actually have not watched the 2nd and 3rd Hunger Games movies. I've only watched the first, so it's going to be awesome to like read the books and then go back and watch all the movies. that's gonna be nice. For my 4 stars, I read Blood on the Tracks. Volume 2 to 9 of Blood on the Tracks I read, and I overall gave this series a 4 out of 5 stars. In this series, we basically follow our main character, who is a little boy, and he basically has grown up with a mother that he's being told is very like overprotective, and at first he doesn't see it. He's like, no, my mom just like loves me, she just cares about me, until he witnesses something very tragic that his mom does, like right before his eyes, and then he begins to question everything about his mother, and you see him as he goes through this like PTSD of everything that he saw his mom do, and like how he's just struggling with this relationship with her, and how he's discovering that she's not the initial loving parent that he thought she was. And it's really good. Like, I really want to continue the series because every volume leaves on a cliffhanger that you just want to pick up the next one and the next one and the next one. And the cliffhanger that I was left with, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to pick up the next one. So I really do plan on finishing the series. I know it has 15 volumes in total, so I really do want to finish this series. And the next, since we are still talking about mangas, I'm going to go ahead and put in the next manga that I read, called My Summer of You, Volume 1. And in this series, we basically follow 2 high school students. When it comes to like social status, they're very different. You have like the nerdy, awkward guy, and then you have the very popular guy that like all the girls want. But yet they share this like love for movies and television and like film, not television, but movies and film, and that's what sort of brings them together and makes this friendship. But then the popular guy ends up telling the other guy that he has a big crush on him, and the other guy just does not know how to process this because he never thought of men in that sort of way. And we see him as he is like dealing with his feelings but still trying to keep that friendship that he so desperately enjoys with this character, and you just see their relationship progress. Obviously, I feel like this would have been a better summer read, but it was good. Like, I really enjoyed it. My daughter read it, she loved it. Reminded her of Heartstopper, which she really enjoyed. I really enjoy that series as well, so it was very, overall, just a very entertaining manga, and I do plan on picking up the further volumes. My other 4-star book is going to be Tress and the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I really liked this book. It was told so beautifully. Like, I have so many like quotes, I guess not too many, but they're all like yellow tabs. All those yellow tabs are like different quotes that are in the story that just doesn't just talk about the story, but just like life in general. And I'm like, that's good. That's a good motto. And I just kept highlighting like quote after quote after quote, because the way that this book was just told just played out like a beautiful fairy tale. It was honestly a story that you could even sort of read to your children. I didn't feel like it really had anything too adult themed in here. If you guys do not know, this story is about a girl named Tress, and Tress is a window washer, and she grows up around the Duke's home in her little island, washing his windows, and she befriends the Duke's son, who's around the same age as her. And as they grow older, they realize that they're actually in love, and the Duke sees this and he doesn't like it, so he ends up sending his son away to go get married. Our main character, Tress, is like, I don't want you to get married to somebody else, and he's like, I promise I won't. I'll send you a cup every single month to let you know that I turned another woman down. And she gets cup after cup after cup that keeps her hopes up until she doesn't get a cup. And then the Duke comes home and the son doesn't come home, and she's like, what happened to your son? And he's like, oh, I gave him to the sorceress, and the sorceress is like this super powerful evil woman. And so Tress, because she loves this man so much, she's like, I'm not gonna just stand here and let this happen to him. And she goes off on this like grand adventure to go rescue him. So it's like the damsel in distress, but like flipped on its head, and it's the guy that's in distress, and then Tress being the one that goes and rescues him. And there's pirates and talking rats and dragons, and it just reads like a beautiful fairy tale. And I really did enjoy this book a lot, and it was just a fun story. And at the end, with that like plot twist that I just wasn't expecting, like my jaw dropped, and it just ended so beautifully. I wanted to cry. It was just such a beautiful story. I wouldn't say it's like god tier like 5-star, but it was definitely up there, so I'm gonna say like 4.5. There was a few times where it kind of like slowed down, and I found myself sort of getting bored in different parts, but it did pick up again. over time. I just felt like the pacing could have been a little bit more consistent. Now for my 5 stars. So for my 5-star, I only have one, but man, is it a good one. It is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know why I waited so long to read this book, okay? I have a whole vlog dedicated to this, but I don't know why I waited so long to read this book. I think it was like the size that I was intimidated by, but honestly, this book had me bawling. This book had me just obsessed. It had me hooked. I couldn't put it down. It was just a great book. If you guys don't know, this series is the sequel to ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Miss Sarah J. Maas, where we follow this main character. Her name is Feyre. She basically lost all her wealth. She lost her mother, so it's just her sisters and her father, who is now disabled. So she basically has to hunt to keep her family alive, and along the way she ends up accidentally unaliving a wolf that ends up being a fae. So in return, a fae comes over to her home and is like, hey, you murdered one of my friends, so in return I'm going to take you to my palace and you're going to live with me for the rest of your days. And now Feyre is forced to go stay with this fae, this high fae, and a romance ensues, and it is basically a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. The second book is very, very much Persephone and Hades to a core. Like, this is literally Persephone and Hades. And then book 3, I don't know yet. I'm like 200 pages in, but it's sort of a little bit reminds me of Sleeping Beauty, I want to say, with certain phrases that I highlighted and underlined. But so every book seems to have like a fairy tale retelling themed, even though it's following the same main character. And I'm really enjoying this series, you guys. Please stay tuned for the reading vlog that I'm going to have coming out on March 15th for this. Anyways, you guys, that is it. Those are all the books that I ended up reading in the month of February. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!